Eastern Europe is in the boiling state over Ukraine. The Ukraine has become the burning hotspot since the end of the Cold War, when USSR disintegrated into 15 different states. From that disintegration, two most important states were born. One was Lithuania and the another was Ukraine. The Ukraine has become the fault line between the West and the Russia due to its strategic importance, because Ukraine has its access to the Black Sea region, and the Russia in 2014 captured the Ukrainian land called the Crimea. After Russia captured the Ukrainian land Crimea, then the West loses its strategic defense in the Black Sea region. Because of that, the West and the Europe wants to make it a NATO ally to gain its dominance in the Black Sea region, but the Russia opposes it. That is why the Ukrainian crisis has occurred in front of the world, and the Lithuania became the hotspot for the Baltic defense. Why Lithuania? Because Lithuania is the biggest state of the Baltic. So that is why the West is so desperate to save the Lithuania from the Russian hands. So the Ukrainian crisis, NATO and the West desperate to save the Lithuania from the Russian aggression. And that is why the Germany took initiative to deploy the 350 troops to Lithuania to try to reassure the safety of the Baltic nations. The Berlin is facing criticism because of being timid in dealing with the Russia over the Ukrainian crisis, because most of the NATO countries and the USA sends valuable weapons to the Ukraine to reinforce the Ukrainian armed forces, but the Germany sends only 5,000 helmets and the field hospital to the Ukraine. And the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who is in the constant discussion with the US President Joe Biden, has come under fire from US politicians and the officials in the other NATO countries who have complained of the lack of decisive action from the Germany in the Ukrainian crisis and the Baltic gas pipeline Nord Stream 2, because Germany was so reluctant to get off with Nord Stream 2, because Germany need the Nord Stream 2, Germany need the Russian gases, and the Russia feeds the Western Europe and the Eastern Europe by supplying the Russian gases and the oil, and they needs it. And the Nord Stream 2 is very important to send the gases directly from the Russia to the Germany through the Baltic Sea. So to placate the home crowd and to placate the other nations, Germany is preparing to send the reinforcement to Lithuania. And this is the another reasons. The first reasons was for the safety of the Baltic nation. Second is to placate the nations, crowds and the other nations. Recently, the German Defense Minister Christian Lambert emphasized her government's continuing military commitment on the NATO's eastern flank, which she expressed during an interview with Funke media groups. The Germany is the only nations of the European Union with the Battle Baltic Group. Since the Russia's annexations of Crimea in 2014, there have been 4 battle groups containing a total of 5,000 troops in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Poland. And these groups are led by US, Germany, Canada and the Britain. And the Germany provides about half of the 1,200 NATO troops in Lithuania. So to protect the Baltic nations, the USA has ordered a further 3,000 troops to strengthen the NATO's eastern allies. The first batch of their troops has arrived at the Rzeszów military base at the southeastern Poland. The USA also sent the 300 troops from the US 18th Airborne Corps to the Wiesbaden, Germany. The Poland and the Lithuania both are important for the NATO, because the Russia have a very small land between these two countries called the Kaliningrad. And over there, the Russia have its own Baltic port and own army base. And this place is also home to the Russian missile defense system. Recently, a video was surfaced The video was related to the landing of the MiG-31K Foxtrot aircraft with the Russian hypersonic missile system. So this is a very concerning statement for the USA and the NATO countries. The Russia is using its hypersonic missiles to counter the NATO countries, because the NATO and the USA do not have the hypersonic missile system and do not have the defense system to protect itself from the hypersonic missiles. So to protect the Ukraine from the Russian aggressions, all countries, head of the states are visiting the Kremlin and the Moscow frequently. Recently, the French President Emmanuel Macron and the British Prime Minister Liz Truss visited, but no results has come out, because both of the countries' leaders is in the combative mode against the Russia. So they have to solve it amicably. Now the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is expected to visit the Ukraine, where she will inspect the front line between the Ukrainian troops and the areas held by the Russian origin separatists, that is Donetsk. And the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has visited the Moscow on the 14th February. And the very next day, it is today, the German Chancellor will be in the Kremlin in the Ukraine. Right now, he should be in the Ukraine. But in my view, these escalations of the war should not be there in this modern age. Because the world have to understand one thing, which is the countries, those who are fighting against each other are superpowers. They are all powerful. They simply cannot be compared on the view of the power projection, because they are all equals. Because these countries are very, very powerful in the military basis. And the USA and the Russia, they both have the military superpower, because they are having the world most number of nuclear warheads. The Russia have almost 3,000 nuclear warheads, and the USA almost have 3,800 or 3,900 warheads. A single nuclear weapon can destroy this earth. So if any of these countries will going to use the nuclear weapon against any other, then there will be no war. Then what is the meaning of this fighting? If the war broke out, there is a chance of the nuclear escalations. That is why I am saying that is a chance of the nuclear war. Because the Russia has already threatened the world that if the Russia loses this war, then they will not going to think twice to use their nuclear power. And the Russia cannot let the Ukraine go into the hand of the West, because the Ukraine is very important for the Russia. I have already made a topic on this. If anyone of you are interested to follow this one, then please go and check it. It is very important for the world to placate the Russia, to placate the West. So these problems need to be resolved diplomatically, and this kind of war crisis mean the crisis for the world economy, because economy is already reeling under the COVID-19 pandemic. Every country's economy is in the bad shape, including the Russia, USA, and the Western European countries. Their inflation rates are sky high, and Russia is also having a kind of a problem. They are losing their populations. They almost lost the 1 million population due to the COVID-19 virus, due to the massive death rate. So that is why these countries have to understand that they have to backtrack their steps from equally. Let the Ukraine take the decision. Let the Ukraine be the neutral country. Let not push the Ukraine to go into the NATO or go into the hands of the Russia. Let the Ukraine in the neutral position, just like India is doing. India is doing the business being a neutral country towards the Russia and the USA. India is maintaining its balance between the West and the East. So alongside the Germany and the UK has also sent the troops. Can you imagine that the UK is also sending the troops to the Lithuania? They have also sending the troops in the garb of the migrant crisis of the Lithuania. This is an first. They are sending the troops to protect to protect the Lithuania from the hands of the Russians. So this kind of military propagation has to be stopped, has to be, the United Nation has to take some steps. We know that there is, and these countries are very powerful, and they are also the member of the P5. The US and the Russia is also the member of the P5 nation. P5 means the United Nations Security Council permanent member. So they are the responsible nation. They have to take the steps. They have to take some steps backward. So putting themselves into the volatile states will going to put this world into the volatile economical state. As I said, the economy is already volatile. So they have to understand. So that is it. That is for today. Thank you very much for your attention.